Hello children. In my previous video, you have studied about the nutrition and digestive system. That was the life process 1. And now I'm going to teach you life process part 2, in which you are studying respiration, excretion, and circulation. If you like my video, you must subscribe, like, and share it. Don't forget to share. Now question arises, what is respiration? So in previous video, whatever I taught you in the digestive system, the food is converted into simpler form. What are the simpler form? Like protein is converted into amino acid, carbohydrate is converted into glucose, and fat is converted into fatty acid. So these are the nutrients. So oxidation of this food, which provide us energy, is called respiration. It means this food is combined with the oxygen and provide us large amount of energy, and this process is called respiration. Animal have evolved different organ for uptake of oxygen from the environment and for getting rid of the carbon dioxide which is produced in the body. Terrestrial animal have some advantage. What advantage they have? Terrestrial animal can breathe the atmospheric oxygen directly. But aquatic animal, they use oxygen which is dissolved in the water. They cannot take direct oxygen from the atmosphere. So, because they have to take oxygen which is dissolved in the water, so amount of oxygen is low in the dissolved water. Therefore, they have to take oxygen faster than comparatively terrestrial animal. Now here in this slide, we are going to study about the breakdown of glucose by various pathways. How does breakdown of glucose take place? So glucose, first of all, it enter into the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm, various chemical reactions take place, and end product it form the pyruvic acid, or we can say pyruvate. Now this pyruvate in the different organism, it is going in different way. For example, yeast, bacteria, in the absence of oxygen, it form ethanol, carbon dioxide, and provide less amount of energy. But whenever we are very tired, we are doing some strenuous act like dancing, running, swimming. So that time our muscles become tired. Why they become tired? Because lack of the oxygen, they produce lactic acid and less amount of energy. Therefore, we feel tiredness. But whenever we are getting sufficient amount of oxygen, so that time this pyruvate, which is produced in the cytoplasm after various metabolic reaction, it enter into the mitochondria, and as it enter into the mitochondria, various chemical reaction take place and it produce large amount of energy along with the carbon dioxide and water. So this carbon dioxide is moved out from the body. Now, how does we take oxygen and how does we give out the carbon dioxide? We have various organs in our body. First of all, we will see nose. What is the function of nose? Nose contain fine hair-like structure which filter the dust. And mucus which is secreted from the nose, it also trap bacteria. And in this way, filtered oxygen enter into the nostril, and from the nostril into the pharynx, then larynx, in this way forward into the body. Now pharynx is a common part of windpipe and food pipe. So larynx is also called the voice box. Breathing creating vocal sound. In the voice box, there is a small thread-like structure which is called vocal cord. Whenever this vocal cord vibrating, that time it produces sound. So this is the main function of voice box, as well as it prevents food and other particles from getting into our trachea. Now what is trachea? Here you can see this long tubular structure. This structure is called trachea. Trachea is having ring-like structure, and these ring-like structures are made up of by the cartilaginous structure. So therefore it is called ring of cartilage. And what is the function of ring of cartilage? Ring of cartilage present in trachea. These ensure that air passage do not collapse. It do not allow to collapse the trachea. So therefore there are rings of cartilage are present. Now in the next slide, we are going to study the alveoli. What is alveoli? So we have seen the structure of respiratory system. Bronchus. This structure is called bronchus. It entered into the lungs, and then it further divided into bronchiole, various branch-like structure. These bronchiole terminate into the very small balloon-like structure, and this balloon-like structure is called alveoli. In singular, we can say alveolus. The alveoli provide a surface area where exchange of gases take place. So the wall of alveoli contain an extensive network of the blood vessels. Here you can see these are the blood vessels. Can you see this structure? Blood vessels here. These are the vein, blue color in vein, and this red color structure are called artery or arteriole. Further, it is divided into arteriole. And now we are going to study the mechanism of respiration. What is the mechanism of respiration? It completed in two processes, inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation, as you must be knowing about, intake of oxygen, and exhalation means, in simple word, removal of carbon dioxide. So how does inhalation take place? Diaphragm get curved, ribs muscle get contract, and chest cavity becomes smaller. Because chest cavity becomes smaller, so the pressure of air inside the lungs is decreases, and air rushes into the chest, and you can breathe. This is called inhalation. And then what is exhalation? Diaphragm get expand. Why diaphragm get expand? Because diaphragm increase in the size. Rib muscle relaxed, making the chest cavity larger. The pressure of air inside the lungs increases, and whenever pressure of air inside the lung is increases, what will happen? Air rushes out of the chest, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So in this way, inhalation and exhalation take place. Children, if there are differences, if question asks what are the differences between inhalation and exhalation, so what will be your answer? So diaphragm get curved in inhalation, diaphragm get expand in exhalation, ribs muscles contract and chest cavity becomes smaller, rib muscles relaxed and making the chest cavity larger. Now pressure of air inside the lungs decreases in inhalation, and in exhalation the pressure of air inside the lung increases. In inhalation, air rushes into the chest and you breathe in, and air rushes out of the chest and you breathe out. So these are the four differences which you can write in your exams. Now we can see the blood brings carbon dioxide from rest of the body from the and into the alveoli. As I have already explained you, oxygen ultimately, the blood brings carbon dioxide from the rest of the body for release into the alveoli. As I have already explained you, alveoli is covered with the blood vessels, and oxygen which is coming from nostril to trachea, and then it enters into the lungs. From in the lungs, there are so many alveoli, so it enters into the alveoli, and from the alveoli, it enters into the blood vessels, and from the blood vessel into each and every cell with the help of hemoglobin. Now, what is hemoglobin? Actually, in human being, the respiratory pigment is called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carry oxygen because it has very high affinity for oxygen. The pigment is present in the red blood carpels. Now, whenever all the metabolic reaction take place in the cell, ultimately this oxygen is converted into carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is more soluble in water than the oxygen, and hence mostly transported in the dissolved form in our blood. So oxygen is a carbon dioxide. Most of the carbon dioxide is transported in the dissolved form in the water, and some is taken out with the help of hemoglobin pigment. And carbon dioxide is released into the alveoli, and from the alveoli, it moves out of the body through the nostril. So in this way, exhalation, inhalation take place, and exchange of gases also take place. Now, student, we are going to study about the heart. Heart is very important part of our body. Heart is basically divided into 4 parts. What are the 4 parts of the heart? Now we are going to see. This is the right ventricle, right atrium, and now left atrium, and these are the left ventricle. So 4 parts are very important in the heart. These 4 parts are divided by the septum. Septum is dividing wall. Septum within the right atrium and left atrium, it is thinner, but as it enters into the ventricle, it becomes thicker. Here you can see the wall of septum is thicker in the ventricle comparatively right atrium and left atrium. Now this structure is called vena cava from the upper body. This is also called superior vena cava. Superior vena cava bring in deoxygenated blood from all the part of the body which are found upper side of the heart. So therefore it is called vena cava, superior vena cava. It brings deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood is drained into the superior vena cava, and lower part of the heart, it brings deoxygenated blood from the vena cava which is inferior. This is called inferior vena cava. It brings blood, deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body which are found at the heart. So deoxygenated blood enter, and now this deoxygenated blood enter into the right atrium. From the right atrium, it enter into the right ventricle, and now from the right ventricle, it enter into the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery, further, it is divided into 2 sides, left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary artery. Now here you can see all this blue color structure. What does it show, the blue color structure? This blue color structure shows the deoxygenated blood from the pulmonary artery. Both pulmonary artery, these arteries carry this blood toward the lungs, and from the lungs it get oxygenated. It take oxygen from the lungs and it get oxygenated, and now oxygenated blood is coming from the pulmonary vein, right pulmonary vein and left pulmonary vein. From the pulmonary vein, this oxygenated blood enter into the left atrium, and from the left atrium, it enter into the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, it goes to the aorta, and from the aorta, it enter into the different parts of body. So in this way, this is called blood flow. And how does it work? Simultaneously, right atrium and left atrium contract. Whenever they contract, so what will happen? Both the valve, now here you can see these are the valve, here valve, tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve, these valve open, and then blood simultaneously, deoxygenated blood and here oxygenated blood enter into the right ventricle and left ventricle. Now, both atrium get shrinked, they get contract, and now most of the blood enter into the right ventricle and left ventricle. Now what will happen? The wall, these dividing wall, which I have already explained, these wall are the thicker. So these thicker wall contain some neurons because they passes electrical impulses, and due to these electrical impulses, lot of contraction take place, which is called ventricular contraction. So left side and right side, both side ventricle get contract, and then blood, oxygenated blood enter into the aorta and deoxygenated blood enter into the pulmonary artery. So from the pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs, and from the aorta, it enter into the different parts of the body. So in this way, working of heart is completed. Now we can see oxygen enter the blood in the lungs. Oxygen enter the blood in the lungs, here you can see. And how does these vessels are connected? Now here you can see this is the aorta. Aorta is passing blood into the different parts of the body. Here these are the artery, and arteries are connected with the arteriole and vein with the vein. Vein carry the deoxygenated blood and arteries carry oxygenated blood. Blood pressure. Now question arises, what is blood pressure? So pressure which is exerted on the wall of blood vessel is called blood pressure. Blood pressure, here you can see in the diagram, there are two types of blood pressure, which is systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. So whenever ventricular contraction take place, as I told you just now, that ventricle contract, whenever ventricle contract, it put lot of jerk, it put pressure. So that time, this is called systolic pressure. Systolic pressure is 120 mmHg. mmHg means mercury move upward in millimeter. So therefore it is called mmHg is unit. And whenever it drop, it means ventricular relaxation take place. So that is called diastolic pressure, and diastolic pressure is 80. So normal blood pressure of human being is 120/80. 120 is systolic pressure and 80 is the diastolic pressure. Now we will see the differences between vein and artery. We are talking about vein and artery. Now there are some differences. In diagram you can see the differences. Now what are the differences? Artery, it carry blood from the heart, and vein, it carry blood toward the heart. Artery, it carry oxygenated blood, and vein, it carry deoxygenated blood. Artery is red in color and vein is blue in color. Artery embedded inside the muscle and vein, it is found superior. It is found superior. We can see out of our skin, like here, we can see the vein, blue color vein. So artery is red in color and vein is blue in color. Valve are absent. There are the wall in the vein. Wall is thicker in the arteries, but wall is very thin in the vein. Here you can see the differences. These are the wall and valve are also present. Now, there is another. Now we are going to study the differences between lymph and blood. Lymph, it is colorless fluid, and blood, it is reddish in color. Do you know why it is reddish in color? Because of the presence of hemoglobin, which is red pigment. Now lymph, it is a part of lymphatic system, and blood, it is a part of circulatory system. Lymph, it help in the body defense and is a part of immune system. Blood, it involved in circulation of nutrient, hormones, oxygen and carbon dioxide, waste product and other toxins. It contains plasma and a lesser number of WBC and platelets. And what about the blood? It contains plasma, RBC, WBC, and platelets. Now we will see the transport in plant. Transport in plant. What plant transport? Actually, plant transport water, mineral, and food, which is prepared in the leaves. So there are two types of conduction tissue. What are the conduction tissue? Xylem and phloem. Here you can see in this diagram, xylem, it is moving upward. Arrow shows what is moving upward? Water and mineral, which is coming from the root. Whenever we are irrigating plants, so that time water enter into the root, and from the root it enter into the xylem vessels. So xylem, it moving upward. So in this way, it is unidirectional. And here you can see phloem. This is the structure of phloem. It is moving in two directions. Therefore, it is called bidirectional, because leaves prepare food and these foods can be moved upward, can be moved downward. So therefore it is called bidirectional. So xylem and phloem, there are two conducting tissue which help in the transportation of water, mineral and food. Here you can see in this diagram what is happening. Whenever we are irrigating water, this water enter into the root, and from the root through the xylem tissue, it moving upward. How does it move upward? Such a tall plants, but it can move upward. So it move upward by the various forces, root pressure, and upward they are having the transpiration pull. So leaves are transpiring water, extra water. So because of the transpiration process, it exerts some force. So that is called transpiration pull. With the help of transpiration pull, water evaporated. So in this way, conduction take place. Conduction of water, mineral take place through the xylem. And what does phloem do? Whenever leaf prepare food, so by the translocation process, this food is in the form of carbohydrate. It moving, might be downward, might be upward. It means in both direction, food can be moved. Now we will see the next slide. Excretion in human. This is the structure of excretion. What are the structure in the excretory system? Here you can see a pair of kidney is present. This is bean-shaped, rajma-shaped structure. So a pair of kidney, it perform very important function. It help in excretion. It maintain the water regulation, or you can say osmoregulation. So these kidneys have the notch. This notch structure is called hilum. With the help of hilum, there is this tubular structure. This tubular structure is called ureter. Ureter is long tubular structure, and this long tubular structure open into the bag-like structure. This bag-like structure is called urinary bladder. Ultimately, this bag-like structure, urinary bladder, open into the narrow structure, and this narrow structure is called urethra. So kidney prepare urine, it helps in the formation of urine, and then this urine is entered into the ureter. So what is the function of ureter? It helps in the transportation of urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. In the urinary bladder, drop wise it collected, and whenever half filled urinary bladder is half filled, so that time it gives the signal to the brain, and after some interval it is emptied with the help of urethra. So function of urinary bladder is urinary bladder store temporarily urine, and what is the function of urethra? It removes the urine from the body. So these are the important part of the excretory system. Now we are going to study the structure of nephron. As I told you, kidney, a pair of kidneys present, and each kidney is composed of millions of nephron. Therefore, nephron is a unit of kidney. What is nephron? It is a unit of kidney, and this is the structure of nephron. It is quite complicated, quite tubular structure. Here you can see. So each nephron is composed of renal corpuscles, and renal corpuscles is made up of by glomerulus and Bowman capsule. This is the structure of glomerulus. What is glomerulus? It is the cluster of blood vessels. And what is Bowman capsule? It is cup-shaped structure. In this cup-shaped structure, blood vessel is present. And what is happening in this structure? Actually, filtration take place. Whatever impure blood is coming in the Bowman capsule through the glomerulus, so it helps in the filtration. And after filtration, it enters into the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the structure of proximal convoluted tubule. And after that, it enters into this U-shaped structure, this hairpin-like structure, which is called Henle's loop. This U-shaped structure, yellow in color. So Henle's loop, which is going downward, is called descending limbs of loop, and which is moving upward is called ascending limbs of loop. And just parallel to the Henle's loop, there is a vasa recta. So again, this coil-shaped structure, Henle's loop is again from the coiled structure. This coiled structure is called distilled convoluted tubule and then collecting tubule. This structure is called collecting tubule. So what is going on in this structure? So basically filtration, reabsorption, secretion, all these processes take place, and ultimately urine is formed. This urine is collected from the collecting tubule and from the collecting tubule, it is sent to the ureter. Here we can see glomerulus and Bowman capsule. What does they do? They help in the filtration. Here, this is the structure of Bowman capsule. Filtration take place. After that, proximal convoluted tubule. This structure is called proximal convoluted tubule. They help in the reabsorption of essential nutrients such as glucose, salt, amino acid, and water. So reabsorption of essential nutrient taken place. The main function is to reabsorb water and sodium chloride. From the filtrate, it creates the concentration gradient. What is the advantage of reabsorption? Actually, it creates the concentration gradient. It helps in regulation of potassium, sodium, calcium, and pH also. Now here you can see reabsorption take place in the Hanley's loop also, especially the reabsorption of sodium chloride and water. Then collecting tubule, the last part of long collecting tubule, this is called long twisted tube that collect urine from the nephron is called collecting tubule. It collects the urine and send it to the ureter. Kidney that filter the blood and help in the formation of urine. In this way, excretion completed. Thank you very much.